Visually, Interiors is an extraordinarily controlled film, which of course is one of the themes anyway of the story. And it raises this interesting issue of whether a comedy can be quite so beautiful, whether it's a distraction to make a comedy so stylish and well-designed as that film was.
To a degree, yes. To a degree, in a comedy, what you want is fast-paced cutting, not camera moves, and you know, bright lights and loud voices. I mean, in the best sense, it's got to have a certain verve and energy, and you don't want the camera drifting around in a kind of, you know, lethargic way, or strange half-lit faces, or what you want in the case of Chaplin or Keaton or the Marx Brothers is basically a record of the material, of the comedian's performance. And you know, that's not as much fun to wallow in when you're making a film. It's fun to fool around with controlled situations and interesting lighting and, you know, psychological nuances. It's just more fun.
We were downstairs at the Castelli Gallery. We saw the photography exhibition. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Really, you like that?
The photographs downstairs
Yes,
at the Castelli Gallery. Great, absolutely great. Did you?
No, I really felt it was very derivative. To me, it looked like it was straight out of Diane Arbus, but it had none of the wit.
Really? Well, you know, we didn't like them as much as the plexiglass sculpture, that I will admit. I mean,
Really? You like the plexiglass, huh?
You didn't like the plexiglass sculpture either?
Oh, that's interesting. No,
It was a hell of a lot better than that steel cube. Did you see the steel cube?
That was worse. Now, that was brilliant to me. Absolutely brilliant.
The steel cube was
Yes.
brilliant?
To me, it was very textural. You know what I mean? It was perfectly integrated, and it had a marvelous kind of negative capability. The rest of the stuff downstairs was bullshit.
Now, a lot of critics think that in Manhattan you have your most mature work, which manages to be funny and serious and true all at the same time. And yet you've often said that you think it's overrated by them.
Yeah, again, I'm not trying to downgrade my films. It always does sound that way. I'm just trying to be objective about them. When I look back at Manhattan, there were many things about it that I liked, but essentially, it didn't really go far. It had one foot in escapist romance, and one foot in a slightly more serious theme. What carries you through Manhattan, for me, is more the style than anything else. That it's beautifully photographed, and it's fun to see Manhattan, and my passion for the city, and my passion for the Gershwin music, was entertaining for people. But I would do Manhattan differently now if I was to do it. It's not a film that I wouldn't do today, but I would do it differently.
That said, Manhattan does succeed in setting the romantic vision of New York against the mess that people make of their lives. And you've also said it's about cultural junk food. Do you feel that American culture is disintegrating around you?
For the most part, I do. There's a strain of very good American culture. I mean, we have some wonderful writers and wonderful painters, but in general, we have, you know, a pretty junky culture. You know, it's a television or fast food culture. You know, you can see our movies, what most of our movies are, almost all of them, and what our television shows are for the most part, and, you know, and our politics. You know, it's not really living up to what we should be living up to.
You can't be in love with me. We've been over this. You're a kid. You don't know what love means. I don't know what it means. And nobody out there knows what the hell's going on.
We have laughs together. I care about you. Your concerns are my concerns. We have great sex.
But you're 17 years old. By the time you're 21, you'll have a dozen relationships. Believe me, far more passionate than this one.
Well, don't you love me?
The truth is that I love somebody else.
Isaac, the central character, by now is confident, miles away from, you know, the little man of the early films. Do you think it's difficult to be funny about such a character?
Well, no, it's a different kind of funny. I mean, in Bananas or something, you know, it's an infantile type of funniness. But in Manhattan, it's different. It's more adult and wittier.
What's the difference when I think about you? God knows what you must think about me.
No, I think you're fine. Are you kidding? I mean, you do have a tendency to get a little hostile, but I find that attractive.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you do.
You think I have no feelings, is that it?
What? You're so sensitive. Jesus, I never said that. I think you're terrific.
Your treatment of the female characters in Manhattan seems a whole world away from the equivalent treatment of female characters in, say, Play It Again Sound. Is that a change of heart that happened in you, or is it a change that happened in the world outside?
No, I probably felt that way all the time, but the other is the path of least resistance for a comedy. Even today, if I was to make a comedy, it would be much easier to make a funny comedy where I'm lusting after somebody. You know, it just would be funnier than to get into the more complex relationship of being a friend. And so I've always had many female friends, but when I made Play It Again Sam, you know, I was just thinking of how to get those laughs, and the quickest route to get the laughs was to be lonely and to lust after my friend's wife, and so I did it.
I've never been able to find a perfect woman. There's always something wrong. And then I met Doris, a wonderful woman, great personality. But for some reason, I'm just not turned on sexually by her. Don't ask me why. And then I met Rita, an animal, nasty, mean, trouble. And I loved going to bed with her. Though afterward, I always wished that I was back with Doris. And then I thought to myself, if only I could put Doris's brain in Rita's body, wouldn't that be wonderful? And I thought, why not? What the hell? I'm a surgeon.
Surgeon? Where'd you study medicine, in Transylvania?
So
When you made Stardust Memories, were you getting your own back on the people who didn't like the absence of comedy in interiors?
No, not at all. I was trying to make a funny film, but with a serious idea behind it. You know, I wanted to try and make a film about a man who had, presumably to the outside eye, everything. He had money and he was famous, and yet he had come to a point in life where he realized that he was still going to wind up on the junk heap with everybody else, and it didn't mean anything, and that nothing saves you, not being an artist, not being rich, not being famous or wealthy, or none of that can save you, and him coming to terms with that idea over the course of this weekend, which really happens in his mind.
We love your work. My wife has seen all your films.
I especially like your early funny ones.
Dick LaBelle. I'm with the museum film department. We have a collection of more than 20,000 prints.
Oh, this is my friend Libby. She thinks you're a genius. Libby just did a definitive cinematic study of Gummo Marx.
Interestingly, he's the one Marx brother that never made any movies.
There was an enormous amount of confusion between people thinking that I was the lead character and that I was saying that I didn't have a high regard for my audience and they were fools. But this was not what the film was about. I was a little bit hurt by the misapprehension that it was autobiographical. I wanted to make it, you know, a serious cartoon. I mean, I wanted to make it, you know, Baroque in that sense.
He's such a genius. How come he can't make funny movies?
Sandy will sue them if they touch one frame of your film.
Well, that was my favorite film for a while. I mean, if you had asked me that just until a couple of years ago, that would have been my favorite film of mine. It was my least popular film, but it was certainly my own personal favorite.
Sandy, you're my brother. You gotta help me change my life. I'm a mess.
And Sandy, don't forget lunch with the editors of those high school newspapers.
And what about the Cancer Foundation and the leukemia victims and the political prisoners all over the world? What about the Jews? The persecution in Europe, in Russia.
Right, all those silly magic tricks you do couldn't help your friend Nat Bernstein.
And what about Dory? You know what that was like. Do you remember the last time you saw her?
He has a certain contempt for the, quote, intellectuals and for the academics who want to analyze his work and see in it all kinds of serious subplots and intents and so on and so forth. He believes in entertainment and diversion, and that the hardest thing in the world is to make people laugh, whether it's in a movie or in any on the stage or in and he takes that work very seriously, but I don't think, bottom line, that he takes himself as seriously as a lot of other people take him.
It's fun to be pretentious because, you know, you think that you're deep and that other people regard you as deep, but it's easy not to yes, it's easy not to play the game because it's silly. I would be dishonest if I was, you know, I tried to be completely honest with you in all these films, and, you know, they're very often, if audiences had any idea with many filmmakers, or most filmmakers, how many accidents they're seeing and how many things that didn't start out to be what they are, you know, they would be very surprised. And this goes for the best of filmmakers.